Hello, I'm Charlie Blair and I'd like to welcome you to the latest instalment on the Ardblair Stones YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be the sixth instalment of these shows, and this one is going to be called IHGF. And IHGF stands for International Highland Games Federation. And in the last 3 years, the Ardblair Stones have had an association with the International Highland Games Federation, and as in this here, let's see if we can see that. There we go, IHGF Scotland, the final, 2019 Ardblair Stones. Okay, so I'll explain to you what the IHGF is. First of all, it's like in Scotland there's the Scottish Highland Games Association, which is the SHGA. And they're more or less responsible for making sure all the, loads of things. They do advertising and marketing for various Highland Games. They make sure that none of the dates clash between Highland Games. They all work properly. They have people who just check the distances and the way the equipment's set up, so that if there are going to be any world records or indeed field records, that everything's kind of accurate and it's kind of working to a formula which is kind of cohesive and it can't really be argued with. They're kind of the arbiters, I guess, of this kind of thing. So there is this. The IHGF is the same idea, but it's on as the title would suggest, International Highland Games Federation. It's pretty much across the world. I think South America, Canada, is some of the states in America. And France, Scotland, obviously. I mean, all over the place, and they run these different Highland Games throughout the country, and they're very, very popular. Obviously, the Highland Games originated in Scotland, but I think it's probably fair to say that the Highland Games in America, for example, are significantly larger in terms of numbers. So yeah, it's a fairly professional, big setup with a lot of responsibilities. So that's who the IHGF are, and I'm going to talk about how it was that the Ardblair Stones got involved with the IHGF. Now, in 2017, the president of the IHGF, Francis Brebner, who himself is one of the top Highland Games competitors in the world, originally from Peterborough, up in Aberdeenshire, very well regarded and phenomenally strong. Obviously, I think he delved into some strongman stuff on occasion. I've actually talked about Francis a little bit in some of the previous videos that I've done. He was looking for somewhere in Scotland to hold an IHGF Highland Games. And they were looking for an appropriate site, and this was on social media. I think it was possibly Facebook or something. And obviously, with the association with Blairgowrie and the farm and Highland Games here, I got in contact with him and to see, just what he had in mind. So from that, now Francis is now based in California. That's where he is most of the time, except when he's obviously traveling around to these various events throughout the world, which is a great way to spend the summer, I'd imagine. But he does come home occasionally, and this was a trip to Scotland, and I think he was sort of maximising the usefulness of this trip and trying to find a decent site for an IHGF Highland Games. So I did message him with a view to the Blairgowrie and Rattree Highland Games field, and he got back in touch, and we arranged to meet at where I live. So I'd never really met Francis before. I mean, I think we were aware of each other, and I had sort of seen him competing in the past. He competed at Blairgowrie in the past. Again, I've mentioned that before in previous videos. So yeah, he spent half a day here or so, and we were talking about what we could do, and he was thinking about maybe some strongman events as well, like a bit of log pressing or something, and So anyway, we discussed it, and you know, we had a great time, and it was then we kind of left it at that, and I don't know if he actually got anywhere in the end. Maybe he had a change of heart or something. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but anyway, it was a good opportunity to meet him and have a chat, and you know, we have sort of common interests, and like with some of the historic stones and things, and yeah, it was. There was never a dull moment, and so jumping on a bit further on, we obviously had a certain amount of exchanges on social media, and about a year later, he just commented on one of my posts. I think I was lifting one of the historic stones or something, and he was complimenting me or something, and then it kind of then he got in contact with me about the prospect of women taking part in the Blairgowrie Rachtree Highland Games in the heavy events. And in Scotland, this is quite an unusual thing. I mean, I think it's to be encouraged. I think it's a great thing. But I think only just now really are games coming around to that, to having women competing in the heavy events. And yeah, there was a particular lady who I kind of dealt with, called Aniki Chamberlain, who in her own right, again, is a very great American Highland Games athlete. And yeah, Francis was keen to have an event. I mean, there are a few in Scotland. I think the May Highland Games, up in the very north of Scotland, I think, had women. I don't know if it was the first, perhaps, I'm not sure, and I believe there's possibly one or two. I think there's probably no more than about 5 at that stage who had women competing in the Highland Games, and I'm afraid I can't name them all. I don't remember them all offhand. So yeah, I brought it to the committee to have a chat about it, how they felt about it and everything, and I think at the time it was maybe just a bit short notice for that year because of the organisation involved and everything. But before all that happened, I said to Francis, look, Francis, if don't forget that the Ardblair Stones are at the Blairgowrie Rachtree Highland Games, and they're free and they're open to everybody. So if there are any women from the States or indeed anywhere else who would like to take part in the Highland Games, then of course they're more than free more than welcome to do the Ardblair Stones. And so I guess that must have got Francis thinking a bit, and being the sort of president of the IHGF, well, we discussed it, and what happened was that I had quite a few events that year. Well, every year seems to get bigger, with the exception of this year because of coronavirus, which. But anyway, so I had maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 events possibly, and I'd explained this to Francis, and I was going to be going to these events anyway, which are other Highland Games and agricultural shows, a festival or two, and I said, you know, there are all these options if women would like to take part in this event, in these events. And so then it kind of went from that to these events could be used as qualifiers for the IHGF Stones of Strength World Challenge, which is held in Norway every year at a place called the Fee4 Hotel. So suddenly it kind of went from women taking part in the heavy events at the Blairgowrie Rachtree Highland Games to having the Ardblair Stones as qualifiers for this event. Now that obviously really suited me. I mean, that was a great thing because I was going to be doing the events anyway, and it really wasn't a huge amount of extra effort to have them as qualifiers. I mean, we record everybody's scores, you know, the stones, the times, and in most instances film the runs as well. So it really was quite a straightforward thing to do. The only additional thing really would be to have an actual proper event. When I say proper event, I mean additional events on top of it with the Ardblair Stones, to actually create a final at the Blairgowrie Rachtree Highland Games. But obviously by that stage we'd obviously knew who the people who qualified were going to be. And as a sort of a plus on that, the top man and the top women would go to Norway to have an all expenses paid trip, and food, accommodation, flights, everything, to take part in the Stones of Strength World Challenge. And it seemed like a great thing. I mean, it seemed like, obviously I have these trophies here, which now it's kind of changed a bit. The top 3 men and the top 3 women get trophies. Well, they get those ones at all the other games, with the exception of these ones, which they get, the bigger ones, at the Blairgowrie and Rattray Highland Games, which is probably one of the bigger ones that we do, and it's my home one. So I feel a sort of attachment, and it's obviously on the farm as well. So it basically was like a great thing to offer the athletes. They for all the effort and they were putting in, they could end up going to Norway representing Scotland on a sort of world stage. And so, a fantastic thing. It was great for Francis because he had these qualifiers already set up in Scotland, and it was great for the athletes. And I suppose I now have the title, I suppose, if you like, of being the IHGF representative for Scotland, which is a nice thing, I suppose. But I suppose that. It's another great thing. And also it means if I'm doing an event at a Highland Games, let's say May Highland Games, for example, then it's a qualifier for this event, which is a final to find the Scottish champion, if you like, for Norway. So it suited everybody, really. I suppose. Now, I did talk a bit about the women at the Blairgowrie and Rattray Highland Games, so I should probably sort of finish talking about that. You probably notice I've got a couple of extra props here with me. I've got that there and that there. Now, these are the shot put, or the Braemar stone for the women. Obviously, at this stage, we didn't really have heavy event equipment for the women, who tend to use slightly lighter implements and things. So I found these. Blairgowrie, where I live, it has a town called Rattray next to it, and it's generally lumped in together as Blairgowrie and Rattray, but there's the river Ericht, which flows through the edge of Blairgowrie, edge of Rattray, like through the middle of the lot, if you like. And I thought it would be appropriate, because I needed to find a couple of stones for the women to throw. And generally these stones are quite smooth, as you can see, and they've normally been in rivers or streams, and the edges have been rounded down. And I thought, what better place than under that bridge to find something central to Blairgowrie and Rattray, being in water, and it was just ideal. So I did spend a day with looking for these. This is 5 kilograms. The lights are. This is 11 pounds. So that's quite nice. That it's really smooth. I was quite pleased to find that. I think it's granite. And this is the heavier one. I should have put the heavier one a bit closer to me, really, and swap them around. So this one here, that is 7 kilograms, which is 15.4 pounds. So I'm quite pleased with these, and also it means like a little bit of history there, because for the first ever event, and now the women's event did go ahead, and it was a big success, and it's getting bigger every year, so that all worked out brilliantly. But I quite like that I've got a bit of history there. The first these natural stones fished out of under the bridge in Blairgowrie and Rattray, used by Aniki Chamberlain, among others, at the Blairgowrie and Rattray Highland Games. So yeah, they're just nice things, just stones, but a little bit of history. I know that Blairgowrie is thinking of having a museum. They're creating a museum or something like that. I don't know if these would qualify as exhibits, but they're there. But so yeah, so that's how the sort of the link with IHGF and the Ardblair Stones. And I've been fortunate to go to Norway, I guess as part of the role of being the IHGF representative for Scotland. I have gone over to Norway and assisted in a small capacity with some of the sort of refereeing And it's great fun, and it's obviously, they stay in this wonderful hotel called the FIFO Hotel. My sort of counterpart in Norway, the actual hotel, is a wonderful lady called Kiki Burley Johnson, and she's won Norway's Strongest Woman 5 times, possibly 6 now. I think she's working on a 6th, and she and her husband Egil, they're very much involved at the FIFO end, and there's a charming lady called Anna Greta who has the FIFO Hotel, and there's a gym, swimming pool, absolutely stunning scenery, and it gives you a sense of pride when everybody's holding the flags and lining up and marching to go into the arena. The actual Stones of Strength event, the World Challenge in FIFO, runs over 2 days. Well, there is an amateur section as well, but this is obviously the qualifiers that I run for Scotland are for the professionals, and you're sort of treated like royalty. It's run, actually it's called FIFO Power Week, so it's not just the Stones of Strength. The Stones of Strength is one component of it, but there's also a strongman section and a Highland Games section. And as I say, people from all over the world descend on that event. It's a shame because of the coronavirus. Obviously, it didn't happen this year, but Scotland was going to have they'll have to be next year now, but Scotland had a particularly lethal team. There was a lady, well, there is a lady rather, called Mary Reynolds, who was going to be representing Scotland in the amateurs. I know she would have done us proud, and hopefully she'll go next year. And Nicola Ann Bennett, very strong athlete. Emma Jane Smith, Scotland's strongest woman in her weight category, and Luke and Tom Stoltman. So yeah, I had high expectations for Scotland this year. But so what's happening this year is that because of coronavirus, all the events have been cancelled, and that includes the final. So what will happen is that it'll be next year now. Everything's kind of moved on, and the people that qualified this year will compete next year instead. So yeah, I think that's about it for the little bit about the women's heavy events at the Highland Games. Meeting up with Francis, kind of talking to him about IHGF related things and the association with the Ardblair Stones and the International Highland Games Federation. So I hope you found that interesting. At least it might explain some things. If you see IHGF on a T-shirt or something, then you know what it means. One of the things about the Ardblair Stones is that it's become increasingly more popular every year, and in the early days it was quite straightforward to have the top 2 men and the top 2 women at any qualifying event qualify for the final. But as this, I don't know if there seems to be more people doing the Stones, and obviously there's a greater range of people, and it's tougher now to select people to try and get the right amount of numbers. So this year it was going to be changed in as much that to have qualified as a male, you're going to have to lift at least the 8th stone, which is 135 kilograms or 298 pounds. And at least the 5th stone if you're a woman, which would be 75 kilograms or 165 pounds. So those were going to be the criteria, and I think it was going to be the top man and the top women as opposed to the top 2 top 2 men and the top 2 women, to try and keep the numbers manageable. But yeah, it's the final. We introduced a few more events. We had the Ardblair Stones as the final event. So the IHGF Scottish Final has now become a feature of the Blegarian Rattree Highland Games. But I think that'll do. Now, if you enjoyed that video, then please like it and subscribe it. And if you click on the bell. That should give you alerts to future videos. I hope you're enjoying this series of videos. I've kind of got an idea for the next one in mind. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.